Good afternoon and welcome to Design Master Training. My name is David Robison. Today we're going to be looking at creating custom feeder graphics for single line diagrams in Revit. If you're attending the training live, you can ask questions in the chat box. If you are watching the recording of the training, you can contact our support team using the options on our website. So for the graphics, there's a lot to cover. So I'm going to start with where these graphics are being stored. In customization, under user options, we have a folder. This is where all of the files for your single line diagram and all your other graphics are being stored. You can choose your folder here. So by default, it's going to be in your user folder on your local computer. If you have multiple people in the company and you're sharing a folder, you could put this on a network drive and point it to a network drive. So that's how you could actually share customization between people in a company. We've got this option here to select it. And we've also got the option to open up that folder, which is always helpful when you're going to make changes, just to get to the folder and be able to make the changes to the files. So that will get you to the folder and let you start working in the files when you're working on them. All of the files that we ship with our software by default are Revit 2018 version. When you open up a project that's not 2018 and you start using them, we will convert them and cache them to the latest Revit version. So we're not doing that conversion all the time. That way you can work on any projects from 2018 forward, because as soon as it's a newer version, you can't downgrade Revit files. So as we're making custom files, you want to make sure that you're working in the oldest version of Revit that your company wants to support. We're shipping 2018. You might not be working on projects that old. Maybe you want to use 2019 or 2020. Just make sure that if you're working in 2024, you're not going to be able to use that file in 2023 anymore. So just be aware of the version of Revit that you're using. For these feeder graphics, there's actually a lot going on in these families. If I select this family and I click Edit Family, there's a lot of different shared parameters. We've actually got multiple families embedded. I would highly recommend that you take one of our existing families and modify it rather than trying to start from scratch for these feeder graphics. That way you've got all the stuff already built in and you can just start modifying it rather than trying to create all this from scratch. There's a number of these shared parameters that are special ones that our software is going to be using when it's doing the layout and working with the graphic. So you need to make sure you have the right shared parameters. The easiest way to do that is to start with one of ours. This symbol location is used for where the graphic shows up. So that corresponds to this little slider here. You can move it manually. ElectroBIM will also use that to place it automatically when it has an opportunity to do so. This segment length is used for the size of that segment. So when it starts laying these out, it knows how to get it to be the right size. So you want to have that set up properly. So again, if you customize one of ours, then you'll have that shared parameter in there. And the feeder IDs actually have a couple extra options as well. They have this symbol height and symbol width. Those are controlling how big this piece is. So that's going to be used when we're trying to get this to be inserted on the feeder. So the feeder IDs have a lot going on with these graphics to make them look right. So if you may want to make a custom ID, I would recommend you just, again, use our feeder ID to start with rather than trying to make anything manually. So when you do make changes, you don't actually want to run Family Edit and start working here because we're in Revit 2024. If I make changes and save that, that's going to be a Revit 2024 project, and then you're not going to be able to use it on any of your older projects. So if you are making changes, you're going to want to open up that older version of Revit. So I will open up Revit 2018, and we're going to do our work there. And I'm going to show you how we can create a new family. We're going to create a new graphic. We're going to do a magnetic motor starter. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a file. I'm going to take this path here, going to copy that and paste that in here just to find my folder. And we need to choose what we want to use as our starting point. If I filter so that we're looking at just the feeder families, we have this default feeder here that has all parameters and really nothing else in it. That's a good, very clean piece if you want to work with that. I'm actually going to choose one that has some graphics in it already, because that'll be a little easier for adding, just swapping those graphics out for the ones I want to use. So I'm going to take our standard circuit breaker feeder segment. We're going to open that up. And these are actually multiple families embedded in this family. I've got this one family that's the existing family, and I've also got the new family. So we'll need to modify each of those in turn. So we'll take this new one. I'm going to edit this family. And I'm going to save this out as a separate family name. This is just going to be the embedded family, so I actually want to save it and where we're doing our stuff. So I'm going to put it here. And this is going to be my feeder starter new. I'm going to get rid of this graphic, so we're going to remove that. And I'm going to change this width. I've created my starter graphic ahead of time so that this is a little bit easier. And I'm going to load that graphic. So I've got a little graphic created. Load that family in here, and then I'm going to insert it. And it's this piece that looks like this. So I pre-created this piece. So this is where your Revit drafting skills come into play. You need to be able to create this, whatever you want the graphic to look like. Creating something like this, it took me a little bit of time. So I did this ahead of the training so you didn't have to watch me fumble through my drafting. And now we can slide this into place here. And we want to lock it to this reference plane. That way it's going to move when we move the, because that's linked to the symbol location. So when we move that around, it's going to move that whole piece with us. And the symbol width is adjusting. There's some lines underneath here for the lines connecting to it. So that's going to be our new starter. I'm going to save that. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing with the existing. So we'll run edit family. Load in the existing copy of that family. I have two copies of the family, one new, one existing. They have different line weights on the detail items. So that's why I have two different families. Insert that here. And I found that it works best if I insert it off in space and then slide it into place. And then that gives you the option to do this locking. If you just put it here, it doesn't immediately lock. So you have to kind of move it off and move it back. So I insert it off in space and then move it back in. And we will call this one. This will be our feeder starter new existing. And now I'm going to load this into the circuit breaker. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. So I did the existing. I'm going to load the new into that circuit breaker project. And I'm going to save this so that I don't accidentally overwrite it, because we don't want to take our circuit breaker. We want to give this a new name. We're going to call this feeder magnetic starter. And I'll take this family. I'm going to swap this out for the circuit breaker existing for that starter. And then I'll take this other one. So it's inserted twice. I'll take this feeder, the circuit breaker new, and I'll do starter new. If we swap the families like that, everything's going to be linked up nicely. So we don't have to go mess with all of our visibility parameters and everything else. So it's a little simpler, again, if you take what we have and modify it. So now we have our magnetic starter, and it's got these two different graphics in it. And then we can insert that in our single line. However, when we run our add modify graphic or go to our graphic lists, it's not going to be there. So we actually have to add that as a graphic to ElectroBIM so it knows to use that. So I'm going to go to customization, and we have single line diagram feeder graphics. This is a list of all of the graphics we have available, and we need to add this as a new option. I've got this motor starter group, which is group number 7. I'll go ahead and put it in that group. So I will make a copy of this line. These columns are actually separated by tabs, so you do need to be a little bit careful when you're modifying this. It's not the best user interface that we ask you to modify this text file. In a future release, we're going to update it so that this has a nice interface. But right now, you do have to modify this text file. So make sure you don't accidentally erase these tabs. If you do, just put them back in. Copy it from here so I don't type it in wrong. So now we have this new line referencing that new graphic that I created. And when we use our command, we can now add modify graphic. I can select this. I will replace that OCP graphic with our new one. So now we have that magnetic starter. It's going to upgrade it from 2018 to 2024 for us. And now it puts the graphic in there for you. So there's our new starter. And it looks like our graphics aren't perfect. I got my lines not quite lined up. So we want to go back and adjust that so that the graphics look right. But that's a Revit drafting issue, but that gets the family in there, replacing that circuit breaker. So that would be the method for creating a new graphic. You'll notice that we did lose the label here. That's because the label is associated with a Revit project. It knows to then put this label in because this label is not embedded in that family. It's a separate annotation tag, so you can move it around. Revit doesn't let you embed those in your families. So we have a system where you can create a project that has the family and then that label so that it knows to use that label when it uses that family. In this folder, you can see that we have the families and then we have a corresponding Revit project as well. This project is where all that additional information is stored. So this project here is the project that has the information for that circuit breaker. So we'll make a corresponding one for that magnetic starter. So again, open up Revit 2018 because we want to have this in the older version of Revit. So we'll open up the circuit breaker project. And really there's two pieces of information. There's the family in here, and then there's this annotation. It doesn't actually matter if there's anything else and where these are located. It's just going to look for these two pieces, and then it'll pull them in from what it finds in your customization folder. So this doesn't need to be located anywhere. Our software actually locates this label for you automatically. You can then move it, but it does the default labeling and the location automatically. That's different from projects for other graphics for like panels and whatnot. There, the locations of the labels matter. For feeder graphics, the locations do not. So we are going to go ahead and load in that new family we created. And then we'll take this one and I'll just swap it out. We've already got the label, so we'll leave this. But if you wanted to have a different label for your magnetic motor starter, you could have a different label, a different annotation tag inserted here. We'll leave it and we'll save that. So now we have this project file. So what's going to happen is we have just this name here. We are going to look first for a project file of that name. If it finds it, it'll open that up. If it doesn't, then it looks for the family. So since it has the project file, it'll start opening up that project file first and then use that to pull the family name. In this case, they're the same. You could actually set it up differently where they are different names. But in this case, they are the same. So we'll use that. Then if we go back, and now if I modify my graphics, it's going to include the label. And it didn't. So let me think through why that didn't happen. You will notice that these graphics all have these 4 types associated with them. Those types are consistent across all of our different feeder graphics. So the feeder IDs have them, the circuit breakers have them, regular segments have them. If those are consistent, you can then use our feeder phase command to select one item on the feeder, choose a new type, and have it apply that type to all of these segments. So I do light solid, it'll get both of these at the same time. So it made those lighter. Same thing, if I do this, I'll choose the dash, it'll be a little more obvious. That way, when you've got multiple segments happening, you otherwise have to change those one at a time. This will change them all at the same time for you. So if the types are all the same name, it will know to apply that type to all of the different segments of that feeder. So when you're creating your new graphics, you generally want to keep those names the same. If you need additional options, you'll want to add those to the default out-of-the-box graphics. Those are standard Revit types in the families. Thank you for watching today's Design Master training. Contact us with questions or comments by emailing support@designmaster.biz.